13A. This unit there that we are working on is on relations and functions. Okay, so again, folks who do not have this printed, you want to jot down the vocabulary. And the key things I underline is what you want to make sure you're writing down. And people who do have this printed, you maybe want to underline or highlight what I underline. Okay, so the first thing that we have is an ordered pair. And an ordered pair, the really important part is this part. It's written in the form of x comma y. That's what an ordered pair is, okay? It's written in the form of x comma y. So if you are writing things down, you can just, again, write the underlined part. And so what that ordered pair is it represents a point. Again, I'm just giving a little extra time for those that are writing. Remember, you're going to submit this, so I want to make sure you actually are writing, and when I check it, that you have the vocab down. The second vocab word, so you can put another bullet, is an input. Okay, so an input is the first coordinate in an ordered pair, aka the x value. Okay, so whatever gets inputted, that's the first ordered part of the ordered pair. The second third vocab word is output. So our output is that second coordinate, aka the y value. So our input is x and our output is y. Please pause if anyone needs more time to copy something before I move on, okay? So we have our ordered pair is the actual combination of x and y. It's a point. The input represents the x value, the first coordinate, and the output represents the second coordinate, which is y. Okay? Then we have set notation. And set notation shows a group of numbers, and the important part here, the second part, is that we use curly braces. That's how we use set notation. So if I want to represent a group of numbers, I'll put them all in those curly braces. Okay, an ordered pair is two numbers in parentheses, but set notation is a bunch of numbers in those braces. Okay, any questions so far? All right. Two really important vocab words are, for the whole unit, are a relation and a function. So a relation is just any set of ordered pairs. So we just list a bunch of ordered pairs. It could be like the ones they gave here: 3, 2, -1, 8, 4, 7, -1, 6, 2, 4. There's
so
five.
Just any,
right? There's 5 ordered pairs here. Maybe I'm just listing 3 ordered pairs. Maybe it's 0, 5, 7, 9, -10, 12. It's just a bunch of ordered pairs is a relation. Notice here in this example, we're writing it in set notation. We're putting those ordered pairs in that grouping of braces. But also know that you could have a bunch of points plotted on a graph, and that's a relation because points plotted on a graph are just a bunch of ordered pairs. Okay, so there's lots of ways to represent relations. The most basic way is literally listing the ordered pairs. Now, a function, and this is where I really need you guys to be focused. A function is a relation, but it's a relation where the x value does not repeat. So you don't need to necessarily underline what I'm about to underline in the red. The blue part is the vocab part. But if we look at a relation, it's just a set of ordered pairs. So this function here that I've listed, it's a relation because there's a bunch of ordered pairs, right? 2, 6, 1, 4, 3, 7, 5, 6. So it's a relation, but specifically the x values do not repeat. So I see the ordered pair 2, 6. Do you see 2 in the x spot anywhere else? Like, is there a 2 showing up where I'm underlining? No.
No.
So that's good because it's not repeating. Then I see that x value of 1 next. Do you see a 1 anywhere else where I underline for x? No. So we're good. These x values, and if I continue, right, for 3, it's not showing up again, and 5, it's not showing up again. However, look back above. Notice these 2 ordered pairs that I'm underlining up above. Both of those have a -1 in the x value, but they have different y values. So therefore, in that example with the red, those x values are repeating, so it's not a function. It's strictly just a relation. Okay? Do you see the difference between those two? So again, a function, those x values can't repeat with different y values. Otherwise, it's just a relation. Okay? Any questions? All right, so let's go on now. So for people who are, actually, you know what? Because some of you guys are writing down, I'm going to jump down. I want you to add this to your vocabulary right now. So after we had the vocab of function, I want you to now put this vocab word down. And those of you who are printed, just follow along. The next vocab word is a domain, and it's the set of input values. Okay? And I'm going to put here, AKA, the set of x values. Because remember, a input is an x value. So your domain is the set of all inputs. So jot that down if you're writing things. And then I'm going to have you do one more vocab word before we actually go back to each problem. So domain is the set of all input values, aka the set of x values. Does everyone have that? Okay, so one more vocab word right now is range. The range is the set of all y values, aka the set of outputs. Okay, so those are 2 vocab words that you're gonna see. Domain and range. Domain is the x's, range is the y's. That is something you have to memorize. In fact, all of that vocab you have to have memorized. Go ahead.
Could you scroll over the domain again for a second?
Sure, we're not answering those questions yet. We're just talking about the vocab word itself.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so domain is the set of x's, which are inputs. Range is the set of y's, which are outputs. Okay, so if you are writing things down, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 vocab words: ordered pair, input, output, set notation, relation, function, and then domain and range. Does anyone have any questions with those vocab words before we now move on to actually problem number 1? Okay, so let's look at problem number 1. Problem 1 says identify if the following are functions or not. If they are not a function, state why. Okay, so I'm just going to use green to actually answer these questions. So we're looking at seeing if those x's repeat. So let's look at the first one. I see a -1. Is -1 an x value again? Somebody answer that. Is -1 showing up as an x value again?
Yeah.
Where? Which ordered pair?
Never mind. Oh.
No. We see -4, +1, and 8. But -1 is not showing up as an x value. So that guy is totally fine. Then I check -4. Is -4 showing up again as an x? It could.
No.
Nope. So it's good. How about +1?
Yeah.
Where's +1 showing up?
Oh, no, never mind.
So it's good. And then we look at 8. Is 8 showing up?
No.
No. So all 4 of those x values are good. They do not repeat. So that means this is a function. Okay, let's look at number 2. Number 2, our first ordered pair says 13, 14. So I see that 13 is 13. Sorry, let me just finish this and then I can answer what someone just was trying to say. So we have 13 with 14. Do I see 13 showing up again?
Yes.
I do, right? Right here, this next ordered pair, it's not saying 13, 14, it's saying 13, 5. So because of this duplication, right? Whoops. So because that 13 is showing up twice, this is not a function. And it says explain why, and it's because the input slash x value of 13 shows up more than once. Right? It cannot repeat, but it does, so therefore it's not a function. Okay, questions. Somebody was starting to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, if so, when you're writing it down on a piece of paper, do you have to write like the whole problem out with all the numbers?
I would encourage you to. If you didn't for the first couple, that's fine. But I would encourage you to, because when you go to do your homework tonight, you want to look at this example to help you. You know what I mean? So you can see, if you just write function, not a function, you're not going to know, why did I say that? Whereas if you write the actual set of ordered pairs, you'll see, oh, it's because we didn't have any duplications. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions so far? Alrighty. I'm going to give you a moment to do number 3 and 4. Think about, is 3 and 4 a function or not? So go ahead, and then we'll put them up. All right, what do we think? Number 3. Do you think that's a function?
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. We see 3 showing up with 90, but I don't see 3 showing up again. 4 shows up just once. 6 shows up just once. 8 shows up just once. And 5 shows up just once. So this is a function. Good job. It's totally fine that 90 showed up multiple times because that's a y value. We just don't want those x values. All right, how about quickly in the private chat, say yes or no to this question. Number 4, is number 4 a function? Yes or no? Type that. Private chat. Good work. Some of you are nice, fast responders and responding correctly. Okay, most people had this correct, so let's just explain. The answer is yes, actually, okay, which many of you did have. The answer is yes, it's a function, and let's make sure we're listening carefully. A function means that x's cannot repeat. So let's look at the first x value. It's a 1. Do you see 1 showing up where I'm putting arrows? No. So that 1 value is not showing up. So it is good. It passes the test. Now we check all the other ones. So then I go to 4, right? Is that showing up anywhere again? No, just in that ordered pair. So that one's good. Then I look at 2. Do I see 2 showing up in any of those x values, right? Does 2 show up here, here, here? No. So it's good. As long as those x values don't repeat, then we're in good shape. So last but not least, I look at 6. Is it showing up in any of the x values? No. So since none of those x values repeated, this is a function. Again, go back to number 2. Look at that 13. It showed up multiple times, so that's why that one was not a function. Any more questions with clarification on functions? Okay, let's talk domain. So the domain is, as we said, the set of all inputs, aka the x values. Okay, so on number 5, when it says what's the domain, we're simply going to list the x values. It's the input. So I'm going to underline those first, right? X always comes first. So I'm underlining all of the x values. And if you're writing things down, you can write all of those ordered pairs and then underline the x values. So 2, 6, 1, 4, 3, 7, and 5, 6. And now what we're going to do is we're going to list those x values. Now our answer is also a set. So we need to put our answer in set notation. So we're going to draw those braces. I'm not grading on your drawing skills, but do your best to make those braces. Okay? So our domain is all the x values. We're going to list those x values we saw. Now, there's 2 important things to do. Ideally, we want to list them from least to greatest, and we do not want to repeat them. So of those underlined x values, what's the smallest number there?
1.
1. So put that first. Then what?
Then 2.
2. Then
Then 3.
3. And then
Then 6.
Careful.
6. 5.
5, right. 6 was a y value. Okay, so I'm literally listing those x values that I underlined. So that would be my first tip to you is underline the x's, and then we put them in the braces, going from least to greatest, and don't repeat any. So if some of them, if I saw 2 showing up multiple times, just write it once. Okay, let's do number 6. I'll give everybody a minute or so to try that one on your own. If you are writing things down, please write those ordered pairs first, and then go ahead and underline and put in set notation the domain. So we're focusing on the X values. Go ahead, take a moment to do that, and then we'll check your answers. Just a reminder, we're going to stick with taking our third lunch during this remote time. Once we're back with in-school stuff, we will do our second lunch. Okay, so for number 6, we have the ordered pair 3, 2. I'm underlining the X value of 3. Then we have negative 1, 8. I'm just going to underline negative 1. 4, 7. I'm just focusing on the X value of 4. And same thing, I continue with just underlining my X values. Those underlined numbers are what's in my domain. So let's look at the smallest number. What's the smallest number that I underlined? Negative 1. So I'm going to write that. Now, I see negative 1 showing up twice. I'm just going to write it once. Okay, so now I'm going to cross it off so I know I used it. I only need it once. Now I have 3, 4, and 2 left over. So the next smallest number is 2. I used that. We'll cross it off. Then 3, and now 4. So there's my domain. You don't have to cross things off. I just did so that I kept track of everything. Okay? Again, vocabulary you need to have memorized. So function we learned means the x's can't repeat. Domain is to list all of our x values. You will have a vocabulary section on your homework tonight, as well as on your tests and stuff. So that's why I'm spending the time really emphasizing that. Okay, let's move down. Is everyone okay for me to move down? Chime in if anything's going too fast. Okay, so number 7 and 8 is the opposite. Instead of finding the domain, we're finding the range. And recall, the range is all the y values. So for number 7, you can write down all the ordered pairs. 2, 6, 1, 4, 3, 7, 5, 6. And we're going to focus on the range, which is the y value. So this time around, I'm underlining the second coordinate because that's the y value. And then I use my braces. And again, we try to go from least to greatest. So I have 6, 4, 7, and 6. The smallest number there is 4. Then I have 6. It shows up twice, but I'm just going to write it once. And then 7. Any questions? Okay, you do 8, and then I'll put the answer up so that you can check to see if you did it correctly. Alrighty, let's see what people have. I'm going to underline those y values. And nice. Some people are actually putting it into the chat and it looks really good. So in that range, oops, we're going to list. We're going to have 2 first. That's the smallest one I underlined. Then we have 4, 6, 7, and 8. So take a look. Did you have the right answer? What's priority 1 right now is that you have all the right numbers. Priority 2 is that you listed them in the correct order. Any questions? Good. And just don't forget to put those braces when you're writing. Okay? Any questions? All right, a couple more that we'll do together. So the next one is saying, identify the set of inputs and outputs. This is going to be pretty redundant. Tell me, what values represent the inputs, folks? X's or Y's for inputs?
X for input.
X. Input is the first part, so it's your X's. So I'm going to underline those in green. Here's my X's. It's pretty much the same thing as saying find the domain. Inputs and domain really mean the same thing. So I underlined those in green, and now I put in braces them in order. And so I'm going to go from least to greatest, and the good news here is that they already are in least to greatest. So there's my inputs. I'm going to take blue and highlight my outputs. The blue is the Y values. And those are my outputs. Okay, so remember, you put something in for it to come out, so that's why we go in is the X, the first ones, out is the Y's, the second ones. And this time around, we have to put those in order. -3 is the smallest. Then 0, then 2, and then 5. Remember, if it does repeat, you only need to list it once. Okay, try number 10. So there's that set of ordered pairs. If you need to write them down first, do so. And then what are your inputs and what are your outputs? Go ahead, I'll give you guys a minute to do so. Remember, we're taking third lunch, okay? So if the bell rings in a little bit and you can hear that, ignore it.
So input is the same as domain and output's the same as range.
Correct. Yep.
So is that number 9 would be like asking the same thing as number 11.
Yep, but you don't need to move on quite yet, but yes.
Okay.
All right, let's see how we did. So I'll use green again for the inputs. So -2 is our first X value, 2, 3, 5, and 5. So those inputs from least to greatest, -2 is the smallest, then 2, then 3, and then 5 shows up twice, but I'm only writing it once. I see a lot of black screens out there. Hopefully you are still engaged. This is important stuff. Now for our outputs, I'll use blue, so I'm underlining the outputs which represent the Y value. And those from least to greatest, And hooray, they already are, right? -2 is the smallest, -1, 0, 3, and 4. None of them repeat. Any questions for inputs and outputs? Okay. So next we have find the domain and range. So we already did practice this. We're just doing both of them at the same time. So as Tim was saying before, okay, this is really the same type of a question. A domain are those X values, those inputs. So again, we're first focusing on the X values, putting them in set notation from least to greatest. So out of 8, 5, -4, 3, and 2, -4 is the smallest, then 2, then 3, then 5, and then 8. Again, those are those X values, those inputs. Your range is your Y values or your outputs. So I'll underline those in blue. So we have -2 is the smallest of those. Then 3, which shows up twice, but I'm just going to write it once. And then 7 and 8. Okay, so lots of overlapping concepts here. We're talking about ordered pairs, inputs, outputs, domain and range. Those come from the ordered pairs. Input and domain means X, output and range means Y. Okay, try number 12, and then in the private chat, tell me each one. So put domain and tell me what your domain is, then put range and tell me what your range is. Okay, go ahead and do that. Make sure it's in the private chat. Good. The people who have put things in so far, looks good. So, good job, Tim. Good job, Moses, Kate, Eva, Dominic, Victoria. Looking good. Good, Gabe. Nice. All right, so those of you that are participating and engaging, first off, you're obviously learning it correctly because you're writing the correct answers. So good job. That's a reason for participating, right? You'll learn things better. For those of you that are just sitting back, that's not going to help you necessarily. So you need to chime in with a question then instead if you don't know. And if you're not even there, then you're not going to learn anything. Okay? So great job to those that are participating. Good job to those that ask questions. We want to make sure we're engaged. So let's just double check this. Our input is our domains, right? Which is the X value. So that'll be in green. we have 0 for the first x value, 1, 2, and 3. They're all in order already. So those were my x values. The domain is x. Range is our y values. Those are in blue. And yay, they're in order. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I gave you a nice one to have to do on your own. Any questions? All right, the last two we are going to do together, 13 and 14. And 13 and 14 say that they give you 4 ordered pairs. And they're asking you, what can't x equal to ensure we have a function? Okay, so in 13, we have 8, 11 as an ordered pair, 34, 5 as an ordered pair, and 6, 17 as an ordered pair. Right now, would everybody agree this is a function? Because the first, remember, a function means x's can't repeat. Do you see 8 showing up again? Yes or no?
No.
No. So far we're good. Do you see 34 showing up again?
No.
No. And do you see 6 showing up again?
No.
No. Good. So far we're a function. We want to make sure it stays a function. So what we have to try to figure out is what cannot, because it's easier. There's more things that it can be than it can't be. What can't x be to make sure we stay a function? And so remember, a function is that we can't have repeats. So we cannot put an 8 there, because then if I put an 8 there, those would be repeating. So we don't want an 8. What else don't we want then?
34.
Exactly, 34 and
6.
6. Good, Max. Okay, if x equals any of those 3 x values we underlined, then we're going to have a duplicate, and therefore it's not a function. Does that make sense to everybody? Anything else is fair game. It could be 1005. It could be negative 72. As long as it's not one of the x values previously stated, then it will be a function. Okay, so go ahead, do 14. And again, in the private chat, tell me the numbers that you are listing. Okay, you don't have to use the x can't equal symbol, because that's hard on a typing. But just tell me, in this case, there'll be 3 numbers. Tell me which 3 numbers x can't equal. Go ahead in the private chat. Good, Tim. Good, Kate. Just watch your signs a little bit. But right idea. Nice, Dom. Good, Max. Yeah, good, Kate. Eva, that's correct. Good, Moses. And again, I know you can't type it, but it would just be x can't equal. But correct numbers. Let's go. Let's hear from some other folks. Great job. It's those same folks that are participating. And excellent work, guys. It's not going unnoticed, that's for sure. I'm going to chime in to people I don't see anything from. And if you don't know it, then you type in, I don't know, help me, right? We have to be engaged. Okay, so let's hear Jordan, Ashley, Jake, Taylor, John, Alyssa. All right, let's hear from you guys too. Okay, so if your video is off and you're not typing anything, to me that means you are absent. You are not here and you're not paying attention. If your video is on, obviously I can see you, so I know you're there, but still, chime in on that private chat with, hey, I don't really understand, okay? But we need to make sure we are engaged. And those of you with black screens and not typing, it's not helpful. So let's confirm the answers that those of you did. Again, to be a function, we cannot have x's repeat. So the x's I see already are 12, negative 11, and 33. So we cannot have that last ordered pair have a 12, a negative 11, or a 33. So that's my answer. X can't be those three things.